Hello and good morning, everybody. It is Sunday once again, and this is Heretical Weekend's number 45, and our first show in Trump's New America. How are you guys
Hi.
doing today? Turtle, Gav Guy, what say you this fine Sunday morning?
Hi. It's funny you call it Sunday morning because it's only Sunday morning for a tiny portion of the world, but I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
it's morning for you.
Yeah, well, I'm in California, and that's the only place that matters.
That's true.
Come on, man.
I'm doing pretty well.
And how are you? How are you, Gabby?
Terrible.
Nice. You always sound sad. I don't know why.
It's
Well.
because Jesus isn't in my heart.
It could be because you're a dirty atheist.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Oh my. So there's this temp at work, and he's apparently like very sheltered. And
You're not going to even let me go through the topics, are you?
hold on. This is
All right.
It's short and it's funny. So he was talking to another of my coworkers, and she, I guess they were talking about Trump, and he was telling her how he thought Trump was going to remove all of the non-Christians, not just the Muslims, but all of the non-Christians from the country, so that it would just be a Christian country. And she was like, "Well, that would be me." She said,
What?
"Yeah, well, because she's not a Christian."
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So she was saying, you would have him kick me out of the country, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have guessed," or whatever, because
Was he like in favor of that?
yeah, he's pro-Trump. He's a temp, and there are some pro-Trump people at where I work, but they're
few and far between.
Yeah, they're not the majority for sure, and the vast majority of those that did probably vote for him understand that would be a bad idea. But this guy, we've got a very diverse workplace, and we have Muslims and atheists and Christians and people of all different beliefs, and so anybody that's been there for any amount of time understands that, and understands that what we do all around the world is kind of dependent upon being somewhat tolerant and accepting of people of other belief sets, and working with them. So anyways, but his reaction was totally like, "Oh, I never would have guessed that." Like, he expected.
What does that even mean?
Right. Well, he apparently didn't expect her behavior to be
indicative of someone who wasn't a Christian.
Exactly.
What?
Exactly. So yeah,
she was well behaved.
Yeah. I don't know if he thought she would like run around with horns on her head.
Yeah, that's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I wouldn't have guessed.
And then he said he wouldn't hold it against her.
Wow, that is really big of him.
Wow.
The question I have is, like, where did he get the idea that Trump was gonna kick? Not like, I get like the Muslims thing, but where does he get this other thing? Did he just invent that in his head, and then he thinks Trump is gonna do that? Is that? I mean, that's entirely possible. That's a meme out on Facebook or something, but
who knows? But then, so my goal is to have lunch with this guy and have a bit of a talk. I can't record my conversation with this guy.
You can if you get his permission.
But I can't. Well, yeah, but I don't want to do. I don't want to put that.
That might make it a bit awkward.
Yeah. So, but I will report back if I'm able to do that.
That's the weirdest statement. It's like, so does he? I wonder if he drives around on the street and he sees someone acting the fool or whatever, or just being, someone just driving down the street and he goes, "Oh, that person must not be a Christian." Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you see someone like let's say on the news, you watch the news and some guy robs a liquor store or something, and I wonder if he goes, "Oh, that guy must not be a Christian."
Probably.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean,
but that's not
that strange.
But if somebody
that's how
but
all Christians think. That's you see that all the time. Like,
right,
well, he's not a true Christian.
yeah, but on the same end, it just let's say there's a video of some guy, some American-looking guy, like jumping in a river to save a dog, like risking his own life, or a person, or whatever. Helicopter rescue on the side of a cliff, whatever. Does he go, that guy must be a Christian because he helped? You know what I mean? Like
I did to some extent. Like, there was a professor, like a philosophy professor, and he did his very best to present the best arguments of every side. So, like, when we were talking about, this was like intro to philosophy kind of class, and and he would explain arguments for the existence of God when we were talking about the deontological models or divine command theory in ethics. and I was like, wow, I find those arguments compelling because they were the best forms of those arguments that have been presented. And after class one day, I went over to him, and he was also very kind and patient with the mental students in the class that didn't understand what philosophy was all about to begin with and things. So I thought, with this guy, he's got these fruits of the spirit, and I use quotes around that. So he must be a Christian. And I asked him, I was like, well, are you a Christian? And his response was, do I believe in a God? What God? God damn. and I remember, being very surprised, and that was one of the things that kind of led me to start really wondering, well, if he can be patient and kind and lead a good life. We lost Turtle. But how does that happen if those quote unquote gifts of the spirit can come from and be manifest in someone that's not a believer? What's going on?
Yeah, wow. Is that now that was that back when you were still like sort of deconverting, or?
I was a Christian at the time, and I was very devout in my faith, and but I was did my best to be. I wanted to be intellectually honest Christian too. So I would have conceded, well, yeah, sure, I don't get a lot of the things that are in the Bible. A lot of it doesn't make sense to me, but I'm willing to kind of brush those things aside and just defer to this omniscient and supposedly omnibenevolent deity, because I don't know the things that he knows, and in the end, it's going to turn out okay. So, but yeah, eventually that didn't wash with me. So,
apparently, because you're here amongst us other heathens. So, if you're just joining us, Gavin Guy's college stories are not the topic, but they're very interesting nonetheless. But we are. Let me go through these topics real quick, because we tend to bounce around and we'll never get to them. And I always have a title for the show, and we only sometimes actually get to what's on the topic list. So, but if you haven't, or if you've been living under a rock or haven't been paying attention, it was Trump's inauguration this week. So we're going to talk about that. Any marches you may have attended, because I was a block away from one where I live, which I did not attend because I was eating breakfast somewhere at the beach. But that's a different story. And actually, I'd like to at least touch upon the Secretary of Education debacle that happened. It was literally like a beatdown. I mean, this was bad. Betsy DeVos got reamed like it was a prison rape. It was that. I don't know how else to put it. Like, it was bad. So I'd like to touch upon that because she's a Nimrod. I mean, she's an idiot, and I didn't know necessarily. She's right up there. She's a slightly smarter Nancy what's Palin's name? Sarah Palin.
Yeah.
So, and she's a fucking retard. That's the only thing I can say. But if you listened last week, there's something that we touched upon at the very end, and we had to figure this out. And so our dear friend Turtle spent some of his hard-earned money purchasing a test to see if he has demons in him. You want to take us through? You want to take us through this, Turtle? Since this is your thing.
I guess. Are you gonna screen share?
I'm screen sharing as we speak. We found a webpage of the guy that goes around with his we'll say three daughters, because I'm not sure what their ages are, but they and they do exorcisms, and there's a pretty hilarious video. If you didn't see it, watch our show last week. And so we went to his webpage, and it's just a cavalcade of buy shit. It's just everything is buy shit. And on the sidebar, it had something called do you have demons in you? Take this test or something. Am I correct, Turtle, in this setup?
Something like that, yeah.
And if you go to the webpage, you'll see it for yourself. But Turtle took the initiative and actually purchased this demon test. Tell us about this. Tell us what you did.
Well, there's not too much to it, but
did I just do everything, or did I just say everything?
Pretty much, but I was a little bit concerned because, well, here's the thing: is you can see there's they just ended up sending me a link to this web page. So, like, they basically made me pay $10 just to get to this web page for no reason whatsoever other than just to get $10. But I was a little bit concerned because when I paid for it, it cost me, $10 or whatever, and then they were going to send me two different links. One was going to be like the confirmation that I did it, and then the next one was going to be the link to the web page. And then I went and I paid for it and got the first one, the confirmation, and then like the other one wasn't showing up. And I was a little bit concerned that they were going to not give it to me, mostly because of the business that I said I was purchasing this for. Which,
what was that?
I'm trying to see if it's. I know it showed up somewhere.
Porn?
No.
Should have went with.
I'm trying to see if just so I don't. But I believe it was. I thought it was in one of the emails they sent me.
Now, we haven't actually gone through it, really. I mean, we have it up. What you see on the screen is what I've seen, but I haven't really looked at even the questions.
Okay, yeah. So here was the business that I said that I was buying this demonology test for. DemonscentedGayWeddingCakes.com. So I was a little concerned that they might not take my purchase seriously and might just take the money and not. But I did. Yeah, you're right. I did find it in my spam, which is the appropriate place for it. But
Demon scented gay wedding cakes.
.com.
.com. It should have been like .edu or something.
.gov. That would have really made them upset.
Oh, goodness.
But so my guess when we were laughing through this bit of conversation last show was, my guess was that whatever you answer, like the questions are going to be, I don't say skewed, but you're going to end up with demons on some level, right? Like there's no way not to have demons, because how else would you buy the next thing? I would guess that most people if I guess I was to rate it on a scale of 1 through 10, 10 being the worst, I would imagine that even in my eyes, the holiest of holy, quote unquote, the sweetest of sweethearts will get at least anywhere between a 2 to 4, right? With the average Joe getting, 5 to 10, which, obviously means you're in trouble. So let's scroll through these and go through them together with us and see how you do. Do you sometimes exhibit uncontrollable outbursts of anger or violence? In my past, right? I assume everybody has at some point. Have you experimented with 2 or more forms of the occult?
Wait a minute. What are we doing here?
I'm just reading the questions. I'm just reading them.
You fill them in for yourself. They're
Oh, you want me to take it live?
yeah, take it live.
But you have to click it though, right?
No, you can do it.
Okay. Oh, we'll see how. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So, no. 2 or more forms of the occult. Does Dungeons and Dragons count? No. Okay. Have you?
Wait! But you didn't mark the answers.
Oh, yeah, I'm fucking horrible at taking tests.
Yeah, come on.
I'm literally the worst Asian ever. I'm bad at taking tests. All right. Do you sometimes manifest behavior not consistent with your normal personality? No. Okay, what? Okay. Do you abuse alcohol or drugs to escape painful past experiences? No, I abuse alcohol and drugs because they're awesome.
Well,
Wait a minute.
Is that in my past? I'm not escaping painful experiences. It's just
I've only known you for a little while, and I think I can point to at least one painful experience that you.
But that's not why I'll tell you what. I came home hammered last night. I walked in my front door. My roommate just got home, and I go bouncing off the wall on the way in. He's like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was fucked up.
Okay.
But I did that because I was bored, and the
All right.
bar's across the street, not because I had a painful past experience.
Fine.
Do you commit immoral or illegal acts contrary to your customary values? That is really subjective.
Yeah, for real.
What do you mean by illegal acts? I'm going to say in my past, because I've done some shit, but I'm not, I mean, nothing too bad, but, I've done some shit, whatever. Have you ever attempted or contemplated suicide? Well, who fucking hasn't? I mean, seriously contemplating that? I would say I have. Are you sometimes overwhelmed with feelings of severe depression or hopelessness? No. Do you indulge in self-abusive behavior such as anorexia, bulimia, cutting, or self-mutilation? No, I really wish I can get into anorexia because I'm kind of fat, but
I've been trying to get into that, but
I've been trying to see
not sticking.
Maybe there's some sort of adult class I can take, like at the next college. I don't like being fat right now. Have you experienced life-changing trauma from which you haven't recovered? No. Well, how do you say if I never recovered? How is it in my past? Is it in my past and currently? It doesn't make any sense. It's fucking retarded.
In my past, I had a trauma that I was never able to recover from, but now I'm fine.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna say never because it doesn't make any sense. Okay. Do you know of ancestors who committed murder, suicide, or sexual perversion?
What does that have to do with
ancestors?
Right.
I mean, I'm sure we all have ancestors who did these things.
I'm gonna say in my past because I'm
In your past, you know of ancestors.
I don't know,
But
That's
I don't
awesome.
currently know of any. I used to, but I can't remember who.
All I'm gonna say is I'm half Asian and I'm half Spanish, and I'm gonna leave it at that. So I'm just gonna assume some shit went down. All right. There's probably a parade somewhere. Some shit happened. I don't know.
Well, what would happen if you marked? So one thing I would love to do is play with the answers to see, how it affects the results at the end.
Yeah.
Like, on a question like that, leave everything else the way it is, and then hit both responses to see what happens.
Wait,
I'm curious if this is going to be an automated
Yeah, you think?
I-
We will never sell a demon-scented gay wedding cake after this ever. I don't understand the question. How do you know of ancestors? Well, either I knew it in my past, but I don't currently know it. Like, what does that even mean? I don't even. I mean, all right, whatever. Let me burn through these. Do you voices tell you to commit illegal act? No. Have you asked Satan to in your no. Well, do you live a fear-based life resulting in paranoia or multiple phobias? No. I have one phobia.
Well, now that Trump's in office.
That's true. And I am afraid of crickets. I don't like crickets. Shut up. Don't laugh. So, have you experienced emotional or physical abuse from your biological parents? My mom was Christian. Does that count? Have you been emotionally or physically abandoned by either? No. Have you felt repeated disabled episodes of rejection or depression? Is this my dating life? Because if that is the case, then yes. I don't know. Have you failed repeatedly in significant relationships? Well, I am single, so I'm gonna say in my past, since I'm currently single.
That's currently.
Yeah, come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to mess this test up.
You're trying to underplay this here, and that's probably demon related.
Have you failed to experience trust and lasting love from a significant other? Yeah. Is that? I don't know. Yeah. Do you consistently experience serious financial issues? No, not anymore. Well, not anymore. Are you significantly hindered in prayer, worship, Bible reading, and church attendance? Hindered.
I would say currently. You have to. That's a current. Yeah.
Hindered. What do you mean by hindered? Like someone?
Yeah, and your financial thing is in the past, then, right? Because you.
Oh yeah. All right.
You got some demons going on here.
You shut up, man. I'm telling you. Look, it's if I got 1 point for each of these, I'm telling you. Okay, so I'm gonna guess the answer is gonna be I'm moderately demon filled or whatever. Not severe. I'm gonna say moderate.
Like what would that even like?
I don't know. Maybe he's like a low ranking guy.
Well,
like maybe it's like a
Well, it could be like you're not possessed, but you're just tormented.
Oh, here we go. This test is not intended to be a comprehensive analysis of all factors. No, really. Influence in the spiritual psychological causes leading to demonic oppression, possession. It is not conclusive. Rather can serve as a guide regarding whether or not demonic harassment is a possible consideration in cases of emotional and spiritual debilitation. Those who are evaluated as...
You just threw away $10.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing is, like, a lot of the, I would say 90% of these questions are not ridiculous questions. They're ridiculous only in the context of trying to find demons. But, I mean, there's some, legitimate questions about your mental health in here. And
those who are those who are evaluated as moderate or high risk should seek therapeutic or theological counsel.
That's not useful.
The test results are not considered to be scientific analysis. No shit. But a rather broadly determined gauge of potential demonic activity. The risk increases if the person takes it. Okay. The problem, it's funny when you read these things, and you'll see them on your Facebook a lot of times where I think it's like, you are, 89% sexy. Your friends are, you know what I mean? Then you answer a bunch of questions and it kind of shoots out this automated response and girls post them on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen those?
Yep.
This is, I imagine that there are tests like this and people think it's kind of scientific, but I'm gonna hit this submit. I'm saying I'm moderately.
Keeping my fingers crossed for you.
Turtle,
13.
Did you already submit?
No, I didn't.
No.
Okay. Low risk. All right.
I'm low risk. Yes.
Woo!
It's 13.
All right.
Congratulations.
Out-of-work never have no value. Out-of-work passes 1 point. Yeah, I was right. Currently 2 points. Crucial questions 1 through 7 add 1 additional point of the final score. And of course, I can always buy his book, and there's never a chance not to blast you with advertisement. Click here to order.
That was definitely worth $10. Boy, I would recommend everybody goes out and buys himself a demon test.
Yeah, because this guy needs another big giant cross to hold at you.
Mm.
All right. Well, that was fun.
Congratulations.
Yay!
It was less fun than I had hoped.
Low risk demonic possession. I'm feel so accomplished.
That's a relief.
So getting back to your temp employee for a second, because he's a Trump guy. A lot of pictures have been bounded about this week, right? And the two that are probably the biggest are the pictures of the attendance of the inauguration.
Yeah. Between
2009 and or 08 and yesterday or day before yesterday, whatever. Yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how shitty the numbers
Friday,
were.
right?
Friday. Yeah.
The Friday? Oh, okay, whatever.
Friday.
I'm trying to forget. I drank. I'm currently abusing alcohol and drugs to forget about this Trump thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been trying to avoid idiots on Facebook, right? I only have a couple people that I've known for a long time that are Trump supporters, and only one really bad one. She's a sweetheart in every other sense of the word, but she just says, like, she's one of those people that's like, oh, now that the communist isn't in the office anymore and this and that. And I'm like, communist? I thought he was a socialist. a Muslim. You know what I mean? Like, which one is it? You know, he's a communist. You know,
He's
but
everything bad that we've
but
ever
so there's
heard.
yeah, so there's people on on this thread of hers, and now they are coming up with these ridiculous fucking excuses for why the attendance was so low. And the most common thing that I've heard was, well, that's because all the Republicans have jobs, and all the people that were at Obama's rally were on food stamps and didn't have any jobs.
Yeah.
So that's why there were so many people there.
I think, the thing that gets me is I think that there are legitimate reasons why Obama's was so well attended. The first one. The second one was not as well attended. And it was because it was a historic thing and people wanted to be a part of that. Trump's was not historic in the same way. Our first, I like to joke, is our first mentally handicapped president. And my son said, "Well, what about Andrew Jackson?" And I said, "Touche." But but anyhow, this and people weren't as excited about it, and big deal. It wouldn't have been. We wouldn't be talking about it if he had just said, okay, yeah, there, the whole, however many people were there to celebrate. We had a lot of supporters and yada yada. Now let's move on to substantive things.
And
nobody would be
Trump
talking
did,
about
right?
this.
And then Trump, that's what Trump did. He just let it slide.
Right.
Yeah. So as a result of all that craziness, right, there have been marches like all over the world, right? I was surprised it even got in when I saw it was happening in London. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He's a popular guy.
We were... I was very close to one. I was 2 blocks from the one here in Southern California. I think Gavin guys, there was one where you were at. I'm not sure if there was one where Turtle was at.
Yep.
But it was thousands of people. I mean, like you couldn't get in and out of the city. Like it was crazy.
The one I was at was in Little Rock, and we had crowd estimates were 7,000 or more, and I very thoroughly believe that. I mean, we were wrapped around it was on 4th Street. We were wrapped around that, and then down Capitol Avenue. And by the time the group started moving from our little curve, we could already see people had arrived at the Capitol. So the line stretched and was packed full on this 4-lane street in the downtown area in Little Rock. It was a huge crowd, and I was working in a senator's office in Little Rock back when Obama was first became president in 2008, and I went down to see the protests from the Tea Party and those rallies, and they weren't half the size of this rally. And we thought those Tea Party rallies were big. They didn't have half the people we had there yesterday.
Yeah, but it's as bad as, I mean, I'm not taking into account the guys that are like breaking windows and shit. I'm talking about just the general sort of feeling about the marches and the protests. When I see pictures, out here, I can't speak for everywhere else in the country, obviously, but out here, there's a lot of pro-love, women's bodily rights and all that kind of thing. But
Sure.
The signs mostly were positive things, right? Vote for love and that kind of thing, and this and that, blah blah blah. When I see pictures from the Tea Party route, or those guys, it's like pictures of like Obama being hanged, and you know what I mean, like a mannequin with Obama's face on being lit on fire with a noose, and it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? You know what I mean? It's like, I think I saw this meme on Facebook, and I don't know if I said it to you guys last week or last show. I could have, but it said, we don't like Trump because he's racist. You don't like Obama because you're racist. And I posted that, or you don't like Obama because you're racist. So I posted that on Facebook, but Bill Maher said it best. He said, if you're going to get real with a lot of these people, they don't like a black man eating even off the White House china, or White House silverware. That's how he put it. And
it's pronounced Gina, the White House Gina.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I mean I worked in my last job with a bunch of Trump supporters. You know, like I've had everybody but me. I think maybe one other guy was a Trump supporter, and so it's always like this weird. Gosh, how am I going to put this? It's always like the elephant in the room, right? Like they always have to go, yeah, we're a Trump supporter, but we're not racist, but we want to build this wall. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. It's always like they have to throw that into there as some sort of like negation to say that they want to build a wall, not because they don't like Hispanics, but because, you know, for the security of America, this and that. You know what I mean? Because, you know, because last year there was no security in America. You know what I mean? Like really? I mean, I mean, we live and work. That job was possibly 5 minutes from the beach, in a great area. I mean, the only Hispanics that were around there were either visiting because they went to the beach with their families, or they were there to work in one of the buildings. But it wasn't like the apocalyptic, you know, the apocalypse that they describe, which is there's not Hispanic. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not like the riots where people are running around like all these Hispanics everywhere. Like it's a weird thing. It really is the elephant in the room, at least where I worked. The whole racism thing. There's like a real undertone. But if you really listen to them talk, I always get that weird impression that there's sort of this underlying racism that they just kind of hold deep down, that they haven't let loose yet, like some other outspoken people. Because
it's difficult to pinpoint though, because I mean, I think with certain people there is just kind of like you're saying, this undertone of racism, but I also think there's this mix of just kind of like from talk radio and Fox News, just this kind of, it's not really racism, but it's just that they've been convinced that this situation is a problem, that there's all these this illegal immigration is this giant problem and nobody's doing anything about it. And it's not entirely clear what the problem is when you actually try and like look at it, but like they're convinced that this is a huge problem, you know, and so that's why we need to build this wall. Nobody's doing anything about this problem, and Trump's got a solution. So it's like,
right.
I like it's very easy to say that it's a racist problem, and for some people, I'm sure it is, but there is this element that I don't think is racist, but it very much looks that way.
Well, you know, it's funny out here in California, right, where I live in I think my city that I live in is one of the highest concentrations of Hispanics in America. And so out here, that stuff gets to a little bit of a fever pitch. I get what you're saying. And I don't think it's, you know, I'm not saying they're running around, and once they go home, they're like running around screaming, you know, racial slurs, and they're filled with anger and want to hurt and kill people or deport them or whatever.
Yeah, I think if I can jump in real quick, I think there's we're in an interesting moment with racism, just because like historically when you think about racism, you think about people like literally hating, you know, another race. But there, like, more often what we see now is racism is in the form of just different expectations for a race. Like you hold a black person to a different standard than you hold a white person. You know, a white person who is, you know, trying to get into their own home does, like, if they get locked out of their own home, they don't get called by the they don't get the police called on them, but a black person who's trying to break into their own home because they got locked out, they're going to get the police called on them. So it's just things like that.
Well, right. No, and I get you. Trust me, I do, and I agree with you.
And I think that's sorry. I think that's one of the big roadblocks is that people don't see those. And I'm not entirely sure that racism is the best term for that. What I just described is like these different expectations, just because it's like I see that all the time. I mean, I think that's the main thing. Like this Black Lives Matter movement is like fighting against is not generally speaking like hate, but just this like different expectation that African Americans have to, and other people, other races, but in particular African Americans have to fight through, and women too, in the workplace and whatnot. But
there's a joke by Louis C.K. He has this little bit where he said he has low-grade racism, like very subtle, almost like a subconscious kind of racism. And he says, for example, if I'm at a liquor store and I see a white kid come in with a hoodie, I figure he's an athlete, just no fear. If I see an African-American youth come in with a hoodie, my first thought is, okay, nothing's gonna happen. Everything's cool. Why did I just think that? And he starts going like, he got a little. No, he's fine. Nothing's gonna go. That kind of thing. He goes, see, it's real subtle. But see, what it really is out here, and I'm only speaking from my perspective, from what I experienced. The industry that I'm in is very, very racially biased. I've been in my industry and my jobs. I've been in 2 companies, and they have flat out said we don't hire African Americans or women. And so it's a little. I have a little different, maybe a skewed sort of perception here. But what it really is not necessarily racism, right? Although it could be. What it really is like a low grade prejudice that leads to racism. And what I mean by that is, out here, I'll give you a good example. So out here, there are a lot of Mexicans, and there are some Mexicans that will do the whole cat call whistle thing to women, right? And out here, that's a big no-no, right? In Mexico, it's not that big of a deal, right? But when you're walking down the street as a girl, you don't want to hear, hey, like that kind of thing, right? Every once in a while, you'll get that. Well, I don't, because I'm a dude, but you know what I mean? Now, what ends up happening is, and I'm using it as a specific example because it's not happened to me, like I said, but it happened to people that I know. So they post on what happens on Facebook, and messages and stuff is they don't go, I don't like Mexicans because of that. They go, I don't, it's really annoying when that happens, blah, 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 right? And it's almost like in their data banks. But what ends up happening is now that this whole Trump thing came about and with the wall and they're all criminals and stuff, that little comment about them being annoyed about Mexicans turns into, yeah, fuck those guys. You know what I mean? Like, all those guys, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen it erupt, like almost like a seed of, like that's,
yeah,
it's bad. It sort of sprouts like this fosters all this other like anger that they had. Whereas before they go, yeah, it's really fucking annoying, dude. I can't even walk to the store without being catcalled. And now it's like, yeah, fuck those guys, dude. Those guys are all rude anyway. Like, fuck them, deport them, and then it turns into a whole thing. That's what it's like out here, where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's different in your parts of the country, but like I said,
well, I think it's different. But I think you're onto something there with like Trump Trump basically allowing these like connections to like people being able to push these things much further than they were before. So like some of these kind of like suppressed or maybe not even fully fledged thoughts that are racially charged, like then suddenly get ignited by a thoughtful individual like Donald Trump.
The great philosopher Donald Trump. It almost like it normalizes any sort of underlying prejudice they have, right? And they're not understanding that even if they're not quote unquote racist, like, but they're at least coming across that way. You know what I mean? And when it's like, yeah, I can't wait for that wall to be built, so I don't got to fucking deal with these Mexicans catcalling me and shit like that. You're like, you guys are getting, you want to pull your friend aside in a private message and go, you're going into a real dark place here. It's like,
yeah.
But then when you talk to them, it's like, I'm not racist. I have a Mexican friend. Like that kind of thing. It's like one of those types, and it's like, do you guys hear yourselves? It's like, like, come on, man. It's kind of sad. Well, it is sad.
Yeah. No kind of about it.
Yeah, I deal with that a lot, and I dealt with it, like, as I said, in my job. Everybody was a Trump supporter, and everybody, is like, oh, he's man of the year on with a Time magazine or something. Personally, good for him, and this and that, and literally people were walking around like, not yelling, but they were, vote Trump, like they were just saying that out loud, just walking around the office, and it's like, I wanted to ram my head through the wall,
Yeah.
I wanted to stick my head in the shredder, in the office.
That sounds awful.
Right. Well, that's why I'm not working there anymore. So, one of the reasons why I'm not working there anymore. But yeah, it was really, they don't quite understand the impact. They're seeing things from a perspective where it's like us and them, and Trump is finally speaking on behalf of the us, who's been suppressed for so long. Now we can come out and be, proud of our America. That's kind of how the mindset that they have. And it's kind of scary being the only brown person in the room, but it's kind of scary. But yeah, I mean, is anything different out where you guys are at? I mean, I know not Turtle. I know Gava guy's in the South, right?
Yes.
I mean, what's it like in your part of the country? Yeah, do you have any of that weird underlying prejudices and racism?
Well, it's hard to say or hard to measure. Like, so in the northern part of the state, in a town called Harrison, Arkansas, there is blatant racism there. I mean, they have billboards put up that say things like, oh, what is it? I can look it up because it's online here. Harrison, Arkansas billboard. Okay, it's not racist to love your people is one, and they have whiteprideradio.com.
Oh, I so want to. I gotta listen to that.
Here's one. Anti-racist is a code word for anti-white.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing. Like people driving through Arkansas that pass through this town. Barack Hussein Obama equals more abortions, same-sex marriages, taxes, and gun regulations, and they've got him in this pretty racist depiction with a turban on his head.
Outside of the picture, I don't see anything bad with anything they listed, really. Maybe the tax thing, but I mean,
nobody wants more abortions. Come on.
Well, no, I don't want more abortions. I'm saying that if you
it's not racist.
Have them, they're there, right? Yeah. It's only racist if you're aborting ethnicities.
Yeah. Anyhow, so, but yeah, so that and to try and say that where the rest of the state isn't like that, at least to varying degrees, just because it's less overt, I think would be inaccurate. I mean, I think that it lives in probably all different kinds of pockets of the state, and like I say, to varying degrees, just about everywhere.
I mean, I think everybody holds prejudices.
Yeah,
that's not the issue.
Well, it kind of is. I mean, I think the difference, the main difference, is people who are willing to look at themselves and say, oh, I need to watch what I think. I need to be careful about how I view a situation or other people. and people who don't do that, and people who are behave just kind of selfishly for themselves or for their people who they are immediately around.
Here's the slight difference that I think that I kind of use on other people. So we're driving down the street, right? Especially in Vegas. I don't know why I think, but it happened in Vegas where my parents live. And I'm driving down the street, and we're talking about prejudices or something. And we saw this African American guy in the jogging pants, tank top and a do rag, right? And like just hitting all them stereotypes, aren't we? But that's what he was wearing, and so I was trying to display to my sister or somebody in the car, my nephew, whatever, somebody, that we all have prejudices. And I go, look at that guy. When you look at that guy, and I ask you what job you think he has, do you think does attorney pop into your head or so? You know what I mean? Like you look at somebody and you sort of have this image, right? Like just a first impression. There are people that go, okay, yeah, I just thought he was like some ghetto guy. Okay, fine. That's you've already sort of prejudged him on a certain level, right? Not saying he's bad, I'm not saying he's good or anything like that. I'm just saying you sort of have him in a category, right? You don't think.
Well, like somebody comes in with tattoo sleeves and neck tattoos or something, you don't think, oh, this guy's probably a surgeon,
right? Exactly. That's
regardless of color or whatever,
right? Right. That those things happen, right? Yeah. And they're not necessarily racially motivated or whatever, blah blah. But those prejudices do happen. Where it gets weird, and where I'm from, or again, my area of my industry that I work in, is they don't just say that guy is a ghetto guy. They say it's more along the lines of, oh, they are ghetto. You know what I mean? Like it turns into, it's not a possibility they can be anything but we already labeled them. That make more sense. It's like they see something, whether it's tattoos, well, ironically, tattoos they're okay with, but to a certain extent, right? Like if I came in with a scarf one day because it was cold, right? And suddenly I was homosexual because I wore a scarf. And to the day that I got let go from that job, that was always a joke that, it doesn't bother me because I don't have any problem with gay people, but but I'm just saying, it's like it's a weird industry. There's a lot of underlying issues. we'll put it that way. You know what I mean? So maybe I'm not the best person to, I guess, sort of generalize, because I deal with this every day, and so it's really bothersome to me because I see it on a level where from the Trump supporter side, you know what I mean? Like that's what I experience. So I get a little more fired up over it because that's my day to day.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how. I mean, I think Gava guy got the okay deal because his work is pretty diverse in that sense. But if you had to go to work with a bunch of Trump supporters, you would shoot yourself.
Yeah. Well, and where I work, not only is just the composition of the group diverse, but I mean, diversity and kind of acceptance is part of the culture that is promoted there. I mean, there have been like training classes on working with diverse people and accepting them and just awareness of prejudices, like we've talked about, that everybody kind of has these built-in prejudices and things. But there are cultural things here where I live that might be indicative of racist tendencies or things. I mean, for example, we have these historic graveyards around in various places, and people with ancestors that were Confederate soldiers will put out rebel flags on their grave sites. I mean, like I can walk to this one like right near my house, and it regularly has, and there are several of them in an area here where they have rebel flags put up. Robert E. Lee Day had been celebrated statewide on the day that is now Martin Luther King Day, and there are still towns in Arkansas that have Robert E. Lee, events carried out where they celebrate that guy. So, it's there, and trucks like with huge rebel flags being flown off the back of them. I mean, all throughout the campaign, that was, and I think it increased, significantly while Obama was in office, and also leading up to this last election cycle. That we would see on a regular basis trucks and cars with makeshift rebel flagpoles, flying in the wind behind them. Just yeah.
The one that always got me was the one with the what I called the redneck parade. It was basically pickup trucks, and when it had the someone with a Hillary mask on it and like a jail cell in the back of the pickup, like some makeshift jail cell. Wow.
Yeah. But which things are manifestations of political differences and things or whatever, and there are people that will tell you, well, I am putting on this rebel flag or whatever because that's our heritage here. Well, your heritage sucks. I mean, the Germans have heritage of Nazi activity. That doesn't mean that you embrace that and
right.
Set up a banner.
They're trying to forget that. They were just like, they would love it if everyone was just like, you know what, we're just gonna forget those. Well,
it shouldn't be forgotten. You should have documentation of it. It should be part of something that is in your history in museums and things. But to
be proud
proudly
of it.
Right, yeah. It's exactly
you know what I'm telling you, and maybe this is just my again, the industry that I work at, but a lot of what the sentiment that you get when you hear people talk about Trump and stuff is now we got a candidate that's sticking up for us. That's what I got a lot of. I hear a lot of that, like, oh yeah, now he's,
and that is so accurate, because he is really going to look out for all of the people who aren't him.
Right, but you know what I mean, though. It's like, and to be blunt, what they're meaning is a white racist guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I get a lot of is, that's what I mean. Like, they dance around it. So when you say us, what do you mean, right? Like, what do you, like?
I don't, I can't speak for all those people, but I have seen similar sentiment. But to me, I don't think most of the people who are saying that are thinking white people. I think they're thinking it happens to be mostly white people, but middle class citizens is what I take their meaning to be. Like the people, like Trump said in his inauguration speech, that the people are going to now rule the country or whatever, which I think is a bit of a stretch, but that's what he says. But that's what I think they mean by that.
Right.
Depending on who you're talking about, but
it's a little, and I get it. I mean, I'm not saying everybody's like that. I'm saying in the industry that I'm in, from a day-to-day standpoint, that is what the sentiment is. At least to me. And maybe because I'm the only brown person in the room, I'm a little paranoid. I don't know, but
yeah, I think Gavagai is right when he says it's a difficult thing to parse out the political differences versus the racial differences. I mean, just look at the difference between how Barack Obama was treated versus, like, the expectations of Barack Obama and his behavior in office versus Donald Trump.
Right.
Just character-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if Barack Obama had said or done one millionth of the things that Donald Trump had, like the outrage
Yeah.
that Barack Obama, and I mean, it's very easy to say that would be 100% racist, but I still can't go that far because there is such a, like, because there would be the same thing with Hillary, or mostly the same thing if Hillary had done or said, and she did do say or do some dumb things and paid a high price for it. So I mean, I think there's the political discrimination as well, and it's hard to parse out what's what sometimes.
It's the same thing with Michelle Obama because you know, Melania was a model and did some like what nudes and stuff and that kind of thing and whatever. And somebody put a picture of her on Facebook and it said like, "Oh, look at her, so classy in her inauguration dress" or something like that. And I put in response, I didn't recognize her with her clothes on. And but if you think about it, like, and then people came on and they were like, bad mouthing Michelle Obama because that's kind of the thing to do. And the response on why Michelle Obama was basically a failed first lady is how they were putting it, is because one lady's response, all they did in my kids' school was take away their sodas. That's it. So she sucked as first lady. I'm like, that's it. That's, first of all, removing the soda is kind of a big deal for the kids' health, for the lunches, because sodas are really bad for you. But do you know what a large undertaking it is to get? First of all, even without like opposition to the Obama presidency, right? You know how hard it would be to get everybody to totally reevaluate their lunch programs and get healthier foods for kids. You know what I mean? Like, that's a large undertaking. Now you add an opposition to that. People like, that just don't want that for whatever reason. It's hard to do. And I've never, it's kind of a shitty argument to make. It's like, well, she tried to help, but she didn't. So, that makes her a failed first lady, like in its entirety. It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's hard to help people when you have people just opposing everything you do anyway. But
Well, yeah, I mean, I never met somebody. It's like they removed the sodas. The chicken strips are still there. She sucks. It's like, okay. I was like, all right. Like, one of the girls at my work, she said the reason I'm not voting for Trump because I'm white. I'm voting against Hillary because she's for abortions, and I will never vote for anyone that's for that promotes abortion under any circumstances, is what she said. And I was like, wow. And she goes, she's a fucking piece of shit. And I was like, whoa. I was like, wow. Really? That's the thing, huh? Like,
well, I mean, that is a big issue. I mean, I wonder what our political state would be if abortion was not on the table, because I mean, that's, I think, the biggest factor in why you have evangelical voters initially, like 20 years ago, why they all shifted and like got locked in with the Republican Party. And I think now at this point in time, it's still a big issue, but they've been so brainwashed into all these other things that they are now able to vote for somebody like Trump. It all gets locked into, once you get on board with one thing, they take on all these other positions as well that don't really have anything to do with anything, but like global warming or gun rights. Like, what? These are not related, but because they're, and I think I often think about how I think Republicans are so easy to convince. I think in large part because most of them are religious, and they get into this authoritarian mindset of, this is what the authority is telling me, and he wouldn't lie, and they just buy into this stuff so easily, I think. And not to say that liberals don't buy into things too, but liberals tend to be more skeptical and tend to be more science-based and see what the facts are. Whereas
they do up to a certain point.
Sure. But from the conservative standpoint, it's just, what is my authority figure? What is Rush Limbaugh telling me? What is Bill O'Reilly telling me? What is my local representative telling me? And he says the global warming is fake and that it's a scientific conspiracy, that the scientists are just trying to make money somehow or something. Somehow that makes sense, but I don't have to worry about it because Bill O'Reilly told me that that's how it goes.
Right. And the CERN super collider is a time machine.
Right.
And they're gonna fuck with the Bible. But yeah, it's
and that's how you get like these flat Earth people that then they're these other conspiracies and the Mandela effect, and it's like these are primarily Christians.
It's funny that you bring that up because there are people at this last place that I worked at, right? They're a couple of conspiracy nuts, and I love that they look at me like I'm the crazy person for not just taking what they're saying like as truth out of hand, or even like I don't even consider it in the sense that they go, how do we know that aliens didn't build the pyramids? And we go, well, if what do you want, an absolute statement, or whatever the case is, aliens and the lizard men, aliens in the White House, whatever the case may be, right? But most of the time, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what the science says. And when me and my fucking big mouth was like, well, actually, the science says this, so what you're saying is kind of possible, and from a reality standpoint, all philosophy aside, but and they look at me like, well, you're just closed-minded. Like, well, no, I just don't believe shit I read on the internet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you read if you're going to read the evidence for something, why wouldn't you see if there's any counter arguments or refutations? Or there's a lot of fake news, right? There's a lot of misunderstandings. Do you know how many times in my lifetime I had to explain to somebody what a theory was in science? Like almost every time. And there's a basic misunderstanding of the fundamentals of science, and it's frustrating to me, and it bothers me that they just hand wave me away like, okay, whatever, dude, you just don't want to know anything. And and I've picked up on this sort of idea, and I'm just kind of, it's a working hypothesis, but the people that like to do that stuff, for some reason, they like to, in my personal opinion, they like to feel special in a way. Like they like to feel like they have the truth. Like they know what's up. They're not the sheep. They're the ones that know, that the government's spying on them, and and this and that, or whatever the case, whatever conspiracy they chose to believe in that week. Like they know, and I'm just the one that's, hand waving everything away because I'm closed minded.
Yeah,
that's the notion that I get.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is a wanting to be special, wanting to be, ahead of the curve kind of thing. It's I was thinking about this week as well because you had those. I think we briefly touched on like the two pictures of the inaugurations for Obama and versus Trump, and like what I find surprising is like I get that most conservatives and Republicans are just regurgitating things that they hear, and so they're not themselves being dishonest, but at some level somebody is lying, because like I saw the first time I saw those two pictures, I saw a conservative person like quote unquote debunking the pictures and saying that, oh, the one from Obama was like during his speech, the one from Trump was like at way before the speech and was like early in the morning or something like that. And that's not true. like I looked it up, and no, that's not true. Like the one they weren't sure when Obama's was taken, but there's a lot of people there, no matter when it was, and the one from Trump was like during his speech. So, it's somebody at some point like lied about that to this person, or benefit of the doubt, maybe somebody just said, oh, it's probably this, and he took that and just ran with it. And but like I see that all the time, where it's like this misinformation gets regurgitated, but it's somewhere there's a root to this misinformation, and that's bothersome to me.
Do you guys see the screen share?
I'm not sitting right next to my computer at the moment.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that it was up. But yeah, so this is the picture that Turtle was referring to. Obviously, we've all probably seen it a million times by now. But on the bottom right of the Trump camera, which isn't, don't take this. I mean, text can be added to a picture, but it's just image taken at 11:49 a.m. Eastern from Liverpool camera. So, or
live pool camera.
I'm sorry, live pool camera. I was like, Liverpool. That didn't make any sense. You're right.
Beatles.
God damn it! God damn this education system. I'm not sure if the ET even means Eastern, but I think it does, right? I'm questioning everything I've read right now because. But the article, from PBS SoCal, which is PBS's public something or other broadcasting station. So they kind of go into what you were talking about, but here's a time lapse. Look at
that. Gavagai did mention the fact that with Barack Obama, it was like this historic thing. The other reason why you probably should expect a larger outcome for any Democrat is the fact that the city of Washington, D.C. is Democratic. There's a lot more liberals there. Yeah. So you would expect there to be more liberals showing up for a liberal president.
And on what is it, Meet the Press, or one of those shows this morning, Chuck Todd, who is a newscaster, actually showed some historic electoral maps from the DC area and surrounding areas, and how when Reagan was elected, DC did go Democratic, but all of the surrounding areas were Republican. And then the further along in time you went, each consecutive presidential election, more and more of the surrounding area for in DC was went Democratic. So by the time this last election came around, the nearest places where there was heavy or significant Republican voting was 40 or 50 miles away. So all of that plays into this as well. And if Trump's spokespersons had gotten up and said that, first of all, I don't think anybody was even questioning that. Well, I mean, I guess they did put the juxtaposition next to Obama's first inauguration, and I some of it was in joke and some of it was like ah ha ha or whatever. All they had to do if they wanted to address that was say, here are the reasons that happened. We still had lots of viewers on the networks and on the internet. And, we think that, it can safely be said that this was, around the world, one of the most watched inaugurations, which I think that there might be a case to be made for that. I was watching on the internet when he was delivering his speech and things. So, and I know a lot of people in my office were, and I'm sure in other people's offices around the country and around the world.
I didn't.
Yeah, well, you don't care about our country, so that's
I don't care about.
I also didn't watch Obama's. So
yeah, well,
I did,
there you go.
but I had to. It's a minority thing. I had to watch it. I didn't have a choice.
I was at work.
I was out collecting food stamps. So, so let's jump off of Trump for a second, and on to something that I'm actually really concerned about more than a lot of that other stuff. Really, is the education system. And did you guys watch the Betsy DeVos reaming that happened?
I watched chunks of it.
For those of you at home that had not seen it, wait, let me. I won't play. I got a couple of videos up, and I won't play everything, but to give you a taste.
Can't really hear it.
Can you still hear it or no?
Can't really hear it.
Turn up your speakers. What about you, Gabby? Can you hear it?
No.
Fuck you, Google. Is it just low?
It's slow.
Hold on, let me turn it up on my. Huh.
No.
Fucking. Oh, wait a minute. I think I may know why. What about? Hold on a second. What about now? No.
No.
Fuck you, Google. Hold on. Let me try one more thing. Wait, no. Nope, not you. Shut your face. Hold on a second. Holy fuck. Sorry. Steam decided to send me. Wait, hold on a second.
Do you think guns have any place in or around schools?
That's better.
I think that's best left to locales and states to decide. If the underlying question is,
You can't say definitively today that guns shouldn't be in schools.
well, I will refer back to Senator Enzi and the school that he was talking about in Wapiti, Wyoming. I think probably there, I would imagine that there's probably a gun in.
I like to point out the look on this guy's face as he's saying this. Like, just look at this expression. Like, what the fuck, lady, are you talking about?
The school to protect from potential grizzlies.
If President
I will support.
Oh, yes. They're in danger. In Wapiti, Wyoming.
Well, many of my Democratic colleagues have pointed out your lack of experience in K-12 public schools, but I'd like to ask you about your qualifications for leading the nation on higher education. The Department of Education is in charge of making sure that the $150 billion that we invest in students each year gets into the right hands, and that students have the support they need to be able to pay back their student loans. The Secretary of Education is essentially responsible for managing a $1 trillion student loan bank and distributing $30 billion in Pell Grants to students each year. The financial futures of an entire generation of young people depend on your department getting that right. Now, Mrs. DeVos, do you have any direct experience in running a bank?
Senator, I do not.
Have you ever managed or overseen a $1 trillion loan program?
I have not.
How about a $1 billion loan program?
I have not.
Okay, so no experience in managing a program like this. How about participating in one? I think it's important for the person who is in charge of our financial aid programs to understand what it's like for students and their families who are struggling to pay for college. Mrs. DeVos, have you ever taken out a student loan from the federal government to help pay for college?
I have not.
Have any of your children had to borrow money in order to go to college?
They have been fortunate not to.
Have you had any personal experience with a Pell Grant?
Not personal experience, but certainly friends.
So, unless you haven't, you want to go into that, but literally no experience, just none. And if you, for those of you that have seen it or haven't seen the whole thing, it gets so much worse. Elizabeth Warren gave her the ramrod like no other, with the exception of maybe Bernie Sanders. And I didn't get to see Al Franken's questioning, but it is pretty brutal. And it's all basically the same. At one point, Elizabeth Warren, I think she gets so frustrated. She's like, she's not getting really any answers. It's how would you go about fixing problem X? And she goes, well, I would refer back to my staff and I would make sure this doesn't happen. And she goes, yeah, I get that, but how? Like, by what method? You know, and she's like, well, you know, and it's the same kind of thing. And she basically says doesn't have an answer, right? It's basically, well, I'll work diligently to make sure that it doesn't happen. And so these are all like these dodgy, obviously political answers, and Elizabeth Warren just wasn't having any of it. Like, she saw fucking right through it. Right? Everybody did. Everyone that questioned her did.
Well, I loved I think it was the Daily Show when they talked about the question about the guns in schools. When I first heard that line of questioning, I was like, oh, come on, you know, we get it. You don't want guns in schools, and she probably thinks it's fine or whatever. But I was so happy that he did once she came out with that stupid bear comment. And then like the Daily Show talked about the school district she's referring to in Wyoming. And they were like, yeah, we put up a fence because bears can't open fences, so the kids are fine and we don't have to have guns.
Yeah, they have like a bear pepper spray or something too, I think. Yeah. But yeah, no guns.
Yeah. What, you know, like, just think about the school children in Florida, and what if there's a shark?
Mike, just as a side note, my goal, at least once in every broadcast, is to get Gavagai to a point where he goes, like, where he just literally can't find the words. It
doesn't take much.
Well, and, we've got 4 years where that shouldn't be a problem.
Now, I thought he had Ben Carson as a nominee for the Secretary of Education at one point. Is that not the case anymore?
Not education. It was something else.
No, I think it was education.
It was
Ben
education.
Carson felt that he wasn't qualified, and then, you know, the comments were, you were running for president, but you don't feel you're qualified for the education secretary.
Yeah, I mean, if Obama was a Secretary of Education, he would have been like, "Wow, this job's a kickback." Not you know what I mean? Like, compared to being the president, I mean.
Yeah. But Al Franken's line of questioning was, I think, the most pertinent to the job. Yeah, you can pull it up. I mean, I can give you a quick summary of it.
Sure.
But so he, you know, there's this debate in the education industry where how do we best measure the success rate of teachers, basically, and you know, have something that's objective but fair. And the debate is between, you know, having the teachers meet these minimum standards that they call it's not, shoot, now the term escapes me, but it's proficiency standards, and or, you know,
growth.
Or growth versus growth, and how, you know, proficiency can be kind of an arbitrary thing, like what, you know, where should a third grader be? Well, you know, and then, you know, Al Franken's suggestion or pointing out the problem with that is also that, you know, the top students are going to be proficient no matter what the teachers do, and so they're going to meet those minimum standards, and the bottom students get ignored because they're never going to meet those standards no matter what the teachers do. So you have the teachers focusing in on this middle group and ignoring the you know, the polar ends. Yeah. And as opposed to growth, where, you know, if you measure the growth, then you see how the progress, regardless of where the student is. Has the teacher been successful in moving the student forward and increasing their knowledge and understanding of the content that they're, you know, responsible for inculcating into these children? And you know, but the big thing was that she didn't understand that debate.
I didn't even know there was a debate.
Yeah, she was not familiar with this basic concept within education. So do you want to play it? He reams her out. It's worth listening to.
Well, this is the minute 47 version, so I don't know if this is the part that you were referring to specifically.
This brings me to the issue of proficiency, which the senator cited, versus growth. And I would like your views on the relative advantage of measuring, doing assessments and using them to measure proficiency or to measure growth.
Thank you, Senator, for that question. I think if I'm understanding your question correctly around proficiency, I would also correlate it to competency and mastery, so that each student is measured according to the advancement that they're making in each subject area.
Well, that's growth. That's not proficiency. So in other words, the growth they're making is in growth. The proficiency is an arbitrary standard.
If they've reached a level, the proficiency is if they've reached a like third grade level for reading, etc.
No, I'm talking about the debate between proficiency and growth.
Yeah.
That's what your thoughts are.
Well, I was just asking to clarify then.
Well, this is a subject that has been debated in the education community for years. And I've advocated growth, as the chairman and every member of this committee knows, because with proficiency, teachers ignore the kids at the top who are not going to fall below proficiency, and they ignore the kid at the bottom who, no matter what they do, will never get to proficiency. So I've been an advocate of growth, but it surprises me that you don't know this issue. And Mr. Chairman, I think that
yeah, well, she was confusing the two. You know, she's talking about, you know, asking for clarification and to see if she understands the issue, and she was, you know, kind of melding the two together and saying, using the terms proficiency and meeting minimum standards and blah blah blah, but then also talked about measuring their development and whatever, and movement towards goals or whatever. And he's like, well, that's growth, but you were talking about proficiency. So she has no idea what she's talking about there.
So one thing that I took out of that is that she seems very much like a student who is giving a report, who didn't read the book and just very quickly looked at the cliff notes and now is struggling to kill the 5 minutes that they have to explain the book that they were supposed to read.
That is an excellent analogy. From someone that's been in that situation, that's an excellent analogy. But it's like I understand, like, she, to know everything is going to be a Herculean task, right? But you have to know that stuff, right? You have to, if you're going to sit in front of a bunch of people and senators and shit, they're going to grill you and ask you questions. You better know your shit.
You better know the underlying debate.
Right. Like, I never heard
your
that.
Your job is fucking about.
Right. Yeah. It's like, it's like if you were it's like if you were no I'm saying it's like it's like if you were in charge of the military and you go, where's the Middle East? You know what I mean? Like that. Like
yeah.
And the thing that I think is, like, you have, and to be fair, I haven't seen this, but I can just picture, like, if you're a conservative and you're saying, well, I don't, I'm watching this and I don't know the difference or whatever. Well, you're not the one who's about to be put in charge of it. It's like, yeah, if you're sitting there and you're watching somebody be interviewed for the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and they're being asked about, some specific play, and you think to yourself, well, I don't know about that play. Well, yeah, but you're not the one who's being interviewed. You're not the one who's supposed to understand all this stuff. This person is. That's what they're trying to determine.
Yeah. Okay. So I got her Wikipedia up, Elizabeth Betsy DeVos is an American businesswoman, philanthropist, and education activist. DeVos is a member of the Republican Party, known for her advocacy of school choice voucher programs and ties to the Reformed Christian community. And I didn't know what the school choice was, or the school choice, whatever that specifically is. When I clicked on the link, it brings up something else on Wikipedia. It says school choice is a term for K-12 public education options in the United States, describing a wide array of programs offering students and their families alternatives to public provided schools, to which students are generally assigned by the location of their family residence. In the United States, the most common both by number of programs and by number of participating students. School choice programs are scholarship tax credit programs, which allow individuals or corporations to receive tax credits toward their state tax in exchange for donations made to nonprofit organizations that grant private school scholarships. This sounds, it sounds, I don't say shady, but it sounds like some Christian school, private school bullshit to me. I don't know.
Yeah, well, and it's their proposals would siphon money off of public schools, which are already struggling to, keep the lights on in some cases, and just keep an adequate number of teacher to student ratios, and get access to technology and resources that will benefit the kids later on. So it's a terrible thing, and it's their way of trying to basically divide our education system into
poor people and not poor people.
Yeah. I mean, her kids, she's a billionaire.
She's a billionaire, right?
Who was homeschooled, has never gone into public schools or public university, and has been a loudmouth about education and the way she wants it for her kids.
All her kids went to private school.
Yeah.
Oh, it says, okay, so education activism. DeVos believes education in the United States should be opened up to for-profit charter schools. And she has stated that education is a closed system, a closed industry, a closed market. It's a monopoly, a dead end, quote unquote. DeVos believes that opening up the education market will offer parents increased choice, quote unquote, a view that critics call a drive to privatize the American public education system. DeVos is a known and fierce proponent of school vouchers that would allow students to attend private schools with public funding. According to the New York Times, it is hard to find anyone more passionate about the idea of steering public dollars away from the traditional public schools than Betsy DeVos, which I'm reading that because you just actually said that as I was looking at it. So that sounds fucking horrible. It sounds like rich people wanting to separate more instead of having everyone on a similar playing field to give everyone kids a chance to succeed evenly. It's almost like she wants to go, hey,
Well, it's an opportunity for the rich people to be separate from the poor people, but have equal education. So separate but equal for the rich people and the poor people.
I've never heard of this before. This is the most elitist fucking bullshit I've ever seen in my life, dude. Like, what? I'm fucking. I don't know what to say. I'm Gavin guy. I don't know what to say to that.
No.
That's crazy. That's fucking crazy talk.
Yeah.
Well, we have a problem with public schools, and how do we fix the public schools? Private schools.
So who gets these vouchers? Like, how does that even work? Like, how does she determine?
Well, the parents would apply for the vouchers and then they can use them in the public schools. Presumably, it depends on how it's all designed. And I think there have been some voucher programs already in place. Like I think Bush put some of that in play in Texas when he was governor there. But they can use the vouchers for education for their kids, wherever they go. And
so basically they get a hold of a certificate that says, like, it's almost like a coupon in a way, like your kid can go to this private school if you choose.
Well, it can go where it's good for cash towards education for your children.
And how does that help the public schools?
Fuck
I
those
think
poor kids.
their thinking is that it will give incentive for the public schools to produce better or do better, because right now they don't have competition, essentially, because everybody goes to public schools except for the very wealthy, and this would help give access to ordinary people to have private education as an option, and then you can get your kids away from science, and they can teach them about the creation science and flat earth science.
That's what I'm thinking too, because it's just part of the Reformed Christian community. Like, it to me, and this is just coming from my twisted perspective, but what I hear is like, getting kids into not just private schools, but like Christian private schools. You know what I mean? So they can teach them whatever bullshit they want, and it's like it's a very shady way of doing things. Where it's like, well, they can't do it on their own, so they're gonna siphon money from public schools to make that happen. Go fuck yourself, lady. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself, and fuck Arcane Logos, because I forgot to say that too. But okay,
that was close.
Woo! Almost missed that one this week. A school voucher, also called an education voucher, is a voucher system. Then a voucher system is a certificate of government funding for a student at a school. Sorry, for a student at a school chosen by the student or the student's parents. The funding is usually for a particular year, term, or semester. In some countries, states, or local jurisdictions, the voucher can be used to cover or reimburse homeschooling expenses. Oh, fuck that. Yep. In some countries, vouchers exist for tuition at private schools. The fucking chick I was talking about earlier from my job, my last job, that was the chick that was arguing with me, and she was all, God creates everything. That's that chick. And I made the off comment when I first started working there about the Ben Carson thing, and thinking the world is 7,000 years old or whatever. And I made a joke about homeschooling, and I forgot what it was. What I said, I'm like, homeschooling, or something like that, right? And she goes, "Well, my kids were homeschooled up to the 3rd grade." Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, because I was like, who homeschooled? I mean, and I'm like, where were you living at the time? And she's like, they were living like in the South somewhere. And I was like, oh, all right. I mean, maybe the way I said like, oh, but God, that's so frustrating, because to me, you can have a bad president. He can take fucking the climate change off the webpage, and the LBQ, GTML, XYZ, gay, lesbian page off the government webpage. He can do all these things. He can fuck some shit up. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the education of the generations to follow are what's going to be the makeup of this country, right? And it's like programming, it's like, what is it, like garbage in, garbage out, you know what I mean? So don't feed it. If you have a garbage education system, you're going to get garbage out people. And I just fucking, that makes me more upset than anything else we've talked about today, quite honestly.
Well, my wife is a teacher and works at a school where the majority of the other teachers are also very conservative. So she doesn't get the kind of work atmosphere that I do, where a lot of the people are liberal and whatever. But so she has a lot of uncomfortable lunchtime discussions. But what's interesting is that even those conservative teachers who were very pro-Trump, very anti-Hillary, they are not in favor of this education secretary pick. So that's I think, interesting to note.
Yeah, it's weird, because it's like her saying it's not a free market competition between public and private schools.
You're getting all warbly again.
Yeah.
Is that better? Am I bad, or should I F5 this thing?
I would F5 it.
Yep.
Wait, go fuck yourselves. Hold on a second.
Oh no, what do we do?
That's why Heathen is a jerk.
Yeah. Never mind. Nothing.
What about now? Hey, look, it's me.
Hey.
It's your torso, yay.
How about now? Am I good?
It's almost like listening to you talk about your wife and her coworkers. It's almost like conservatives like conservative ideas, except for when they affect them.
Yeah.
Dude.
Like it's like Dick Cheney. He had a gay daughter. So it turned out that he didn't like the conservative ideas about like gays and
Same-sex
lesbians.
marriage and,
yeah, it's interesting how that
Well,
works.
he did it, that was announced.
Right.
But when is the most? I think the most offensive thing I've read so far is I never even considered the education system or education in general like a marketplace. You know what I mean? In the sense that there should be competition. It's not like Coke and Pepsi, Burger King and McDonald's, right? I just
Right.
in my head it's like this is a all-encompassing thing for everybody. You know? Yeah, you have the option to go to a private school, but you know,
But it doesn't make any sense.
it's not a competition in that sense.
It doesn't make any sense because the public school doesn't make money. It's not a business.
Right.
It doesn't generate
revenue.
So how it couldn't be a competition.
Right. What market are they talking about? It's like a one-sided. God, I just want to fucking shake this lady so badly right now. Lady, I want to shake you. But like, woman, what the fuck are you thinking?
Well, it's not like her original idea. She's just part of this.
Yeah, but she's like one of the proponents.
A mouthpiece.
And a bad one at that, thank goodness. Yeah. Whew. I got the demons out now. I got to take that demon test again.
Hey, yeah, it's interesting. I was playing with it while we were talking about some of the other topics. It's actually pretty hard to get, what do they call it? Like high probability risk? Or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, you got to have a bunch of things marked on the high end, like currently.
Well, you know why that is?
Why is that?
Because the odds, from a marketing standpoint, the odds of you being high risk and being low or none is going to be the least likely to get. Because if you're super high, right, you're going to be you're fucked up enough, at least by those questions, to be like, I need to seek help, like real help, right? Blah blah blah. But if you're moderate risk, or whatever that is, you'll be more inclined to buy his DVD or his book, because if you're low to moderate, you're just like, I got some things going on. Maybe if I just read his book, it'll all be better. You know what I mean? Like, I guess from a marketing standpoint, it's preventative is better than like
maybe.
So wow, well, look at you.
I just thought that was interesting.
So anyway, I'm gonna fucking like explode from this fucking education thing. Like, she's fucking Nimrod. Like, I can't believe it.
Yeah,
so,
going slightly off a topic, but still staying Trump related. I was on your Facebook page, Gav, guys, just seeing your Kellyanne Conway quote. And does Kellyanne Conway remind anybody else of like Mike Rinder from
Scientology?
Yeah, like before he was a former while he was still a Scientologist. Just the answers and like this strain that Kellyanne Conway has to go through. Like she seems to me like somebody who like knows better, sort of, but like is kind of like forced to toe this line because it's what's in her best interest at the moment, she thinks. That's the way it seems to me. Like she's like has to do all these bending over backwards all over the place. And the quote in question is, the president's press secretary offered alternative facts from Kellyanne Conway.
Yeah, because he stood up and said that it was the most attended inauguration in history.
Yeah.
You guys ready for the video?
Sure.
I'm that good.
Then explain you did not answer the question. Why did the president send out his press secretary, who's not just the spokesperson for Donald Trump? He also serves as the spokesperson for all of America at times. He speaks for all of the country at times. Why put him out there for the very first time in front of that podium to utter a provable falsehood. It's a small thing, but the first time he confronts the public, it's a falsehood.
Chuck, I mean, if we're going to keep referring to our press secretary in those types of terms, I think that we're going to have to rethink our relationship here. I want to have a great open relationship with the press. But look what happened before, talking about falsehoods. We allowed the press to come into the Oval Office and witness President Trump signing executive orders. And of course, the Senate had just confirmed General Mattis and General Kelly to their 2 posts, and we allow the press in, and what happens almost immediately? A falsehood is told about removing the bust of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. That's just flat out false. And
it was corrected immediately.
Chuck, why was it said? Chuck, why was it said in the first place?
Wow, she's look at that. Trying to deflect.
Yep. No, that it's okay. No, excuse me. Oh, no. That reporter was writing on behalf of the press pool. That
what a red herring. Masterful red herring.
Times but it does not excuse. And it's it does not excuse, and you did not answer the question.
Yeah, good job, buddy.
No, you did not. You did not answer the question of why the president asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood. Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office on day one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. What it is, Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But
for the win.
4 of the 5 facts he uttered. The one thing he got right was Zeke Miller. 4 of the 5 facts he uttered were just not true. Look, alternative facts are not facts.
Exactly, dude. Wow, alternative facts, ladies and gentlemen. I got to remember that.
Yeah,
that's kind of like
doesn't that? I mean, Heathen, you've watched more of the Scientology stuff.
I love Mike Rinder. I want Mike Rinder.
No, but I mean, but any Scientologist who gets put in front of a camera and is forced to account for all of the ridiculous Scientology actions and horrible actions, just that kind of doesn't that remind you of Scientologists giving an interview?
Of course, yeah. They even when we saw that documentary, they have people just for that, like Rinder, who his job is damage control and to
or there's that from that what's his name from CNN with the white hair, Anderson Cooper, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Anderson Cooper interview where he's talking to the former wives of Mike Rinder and a couple of other guys, and they all repeat the I knew every inch of his body.
Yeah.
That's what Kellyanne Conway reminds me of.
You know what's funny too? It's so she's talking to this guy asking a very specific question, right? About this falsehood or whatever, and then she goes, yeah, but what about this other guy from the media that did this other thing that was all false? And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? He had to steer that ship right back to the question. Good job on that guy, because I see that shit. That's like a fucking Trey Jadlow move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's but and then most people get caught up in that rabbit hole, and then they never come out.
Still, I think he could have done better. I think if he had shown or I mean, he called it out and said it was deflecting, which he's right, but he could have said, okay, so what you're saying, and spell it out what she's done. What you're saying is, because there was a journalist who said something that was factually incorrect, that now it's not important for the president to do that, and see what she does with that, because I think that's a little bit more direct, and draws it out more clearly exactly what she was doing.
Right. Yeah, I did that with a guy at work who was trying to not advocate for, but he was defending big game hunting.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about it, but his argument was because some wolves are known to hunt just for sport. They're animals and we're animals, so it's okay. Why can they do it and we can't? I can't make this shit up, folks.
I think you did talk about that.
I did. Yeah, I could have sworn I did. But yeah, So it's just kind of a weird. She is a fucking robot, she's smart though. I'll give her that. She's crafty.
Yeah.
She's like a fucking
crafty is a better word than
Yeah.
smart.
yeah. She reminds me of like she's like a villain in a cartoon or something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like she's the evil villain in a Disney cartoon. Like, you know, like she's like Cruella DeVille.
Oh,
I will not be surprised though if sometime in the future she has to back out of this and we feel differently about her. Like I will not be completely surprised if she becomes a Mike Rinder type person who turns against this situation.
Well, yeah, because her job is to, I mean,
it's impossible. Her job is fucking impossible.
It wouldn't be if it wasn't. See, the guy in this position during Trump's administration didn't have nearly as much problems. He was just like, you know what I mean? But Trump says so many stupid fucking things. It's like
he didn't take any questions though, right?
No, yeah,
it's a lot easier if you don't have. You can just sit there and say stuff and never have to answer for it.
He said he accused the press and said they were lying, and he put out several false statements, and then walked away from the podium and didn't take any questions.
It's kind of like if you, Turtle, and Gavagai were at a bar, and Gavagai started talking shit to some guy and started a fight, and then he expected you to step in front of him and take the punch. That's exactly.
I do expect that.
But it's like this. I kind of agree with you, Turtle, that I think this lady it's just gonna be too much. I mean, it's an impossible task to constantly being battered because.
Well, there's no way she's gonna stay on his staff for 4 years. I'm calling that right now.
He's going to burn through his press secretary, and I mean, because I think that guy was clearly uncomfortable with what he had to do when he went out there to do it.
I love alternative facts, and he goes, either they're facts or they're not. Like, alternative. That's like when you talk to flat Earth people, right? And it's like, well, you know, you just viewing the facts this way. Our facts, we have alternative facts that say the Earth is flat. Well, listen, you crazy motherfucker, the Earth isn't flat. Oh man, that is crazy. What the fuck? I am blown away.
So if I can get back to, do we have more topics to get to, or?
I think we're done with the political stuff. So
I just have one more thing about political, but
okay.
Because and I don't mean to be a downer, but
on this show, never.
But as I just want people to not get a false sense of hope over all the, you know, if you're opposed to Trump and you are feeling good about the response to Trump yesterday, the protests and all that, the demonstrations, do not take that feeling and assume that equals a better outcome in 4 years. Because I live in Wisconsin, and Scott Walker, who you may or may not be familiar with, after he became the governor of Wisconsin, very underhandedly went after all the public unions and basically stripped away all the public unions, and there was a large outcry in Wisconsin over that, and there was demonstrations,
like unions and state employees.
Yes, exactly. So they basically lost all of their ability to negotiate for anything other than wages, and basically they were technically allowed to be unions, but only for the ability to get wages, and so most of the unions dissolved after the changes that he made. But there was protests in Madison, the capital of Wisconsin, for weeks, and we had a lot of me being a liberal. I went out there and also protested, walked on Madison, and there was a lot of feeling of momentum and
change.
Yeah, or just coming together to like, this is wrong. What he's doing is wrong. Is clearly wrong. And we forced a recall election, which is, I think, one of the very few that has happened, and we lost. We lost the recall election. It's you don't get caught up in this feeling that, oh, I'm around a whole bunch of people who agree with me now, and we're very adamant about our feelings about this, because the people who voted for Scott Walker just ended up voting for him again, and they were still more than we were. And there's a lot of people who voted for Trump who are just going to be solidified in their position when they see these protests. I mean, part of my problem with the protests, and I understand why they exist, and I'm not against people protesting, but
you're bumming me out, man.
I know, I'm sorry, but part of the problem, I think, is that it's, to me, like, the protest is too early. Like, I think that the protest would be better served after Trump had actually done something, protest something that Trump does, as opposed to Trump being inaugurated himself. Because in my mind, how the protests are going to be viewed is like a reaction, not necessarily to Trump, but for anyone who voted for Trump, they're going to view these protests as against them personally. And so that's going to, in my mind, solidify solidify them with Trump in a similar way that it happened in Wisconsin with Scott Walker, and people who voted for Scott Walker. They felt like, okay, you want to challenge my vote? Well, here it is again. And that's what concerns me about this the situation that we're in now.
Yeah, I think it's the idea of even Trump. His existence right now is pretty much the enemy with people, at least out here.
No, I think everywhere, but that, like, Trump is a bad thing, but to me the worst thing is that there's people who think that Trump is a good idea, and I'm concerned that we could be locking ourselves into a longer stay with Trump by reinforcing Trump in those people's minds who already, even some of the people who voted for Trump but don't love him. Some of the people who don't like Hillary, and so they voted for Trump. Some of those people might get, again, reinforced in this idea of Trump, just because, hey, your protest is really a criticism of me, and I don't appreciate that. So screw you. I'm gonna lock down even firmer to Trump.
Fucking retarded. Sorry. I have a really hard time, but I don't know. I can't relate to where they're coming from at all. It's like I think that with the marches and stuff yesterday, it really does give you that sense of changes, you're gonna have an effect. And I think Trump's ego, it's so bulletproof that it doesn't even faze him. You know what I mean? He's gonna go on because in the end he won. And so I think he's just the ultimate troll, to be honest with you. When someone trolls on a webpage or something, or a message board. But has he talked about the women's marches or anything yet, or no?
Kellyanne Conway this morning said that he saw them, that they talked about them either yesterday or whatever, but basically for all purposes of response or whatever, he's ignored them. He said that they, or through her, has expressed support for their right to protest and peacefully demonstrate. So
I can't imagine him saying having this thoughtful conversation. You know what on it. You know what I mean? Like he's just not. I just don't see him as that guy where he's going to sit there and just like really consider what people's opinions are and their feelings and stuff. I just don't see it. I don't know. I don't have enough faith in the guy to. That's not what I see when I hear him speak. That's not what I see when by his actions.
Right.
I just don't see him doing that. I see a mouthpiece saying he did that, which I believe. I believe that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, it's gonna be a long day for me.
Yeah. Sorry to bum you out.
I know this all amped me up, man. And it's raining where I'm at. We got the storm coming on the West Coast, and so I'm pretty much gonna be trapped inside my house the whole day.
Oh, there's a good game playing in a few minutes so you can watch.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
So next time, we're gonna do your end times prophecy then?
Yes.
You have a guy?
To everyone that's watching,
I'd like to.
Yes. Gava Guy got a little treat for us. The end of times.
Seems appropriate.
Yeah, Gava Guy, do you want to tell us about your end of times thingy before we go?
We'll talk about it next time.
You fucking asshole.
I want to talk about the Book of Revelation and some of the interpretations, probably the most prominent interpretations, and we can maybe get into a little bit about some alternative readings that put the descriptions and things as referencing things that happened back when they were written, not actually prophesying to the future or whatever. So
whatever he said, guys, whatever Gava Guy is not our press secretary.
Hey.
It is kind of fitting, like Turtle said. Now that the inauguration happened, we'll discuss the end of times on the next show.
Yeah, and I also kind of want to bring up the third eagle of the apocalypse guy, William Tapley, who is a YouTube channel guy, and he's apparently written some books or published some books. I think they're just self-published because I can't imagine a publisher was like, "Oh, this is great, yeah,
this will be a bestseller."
Right. So, but you never know. But anyways, he made a number of predictions in the past, like that the Super Bowl, however long ago, would be the last Super Bowl ever, and that President Obama would be the final U.S. president. And obviously, his predictions have not come true. And he just this week he put out a video talking about how Kellyanne Conway's inauguration outfit had like significance with numerology in the fact that it had 10 buttons and there's like 10 beads on the rosary or whatever. I don't know, but he's a fun guy to talk about.
These fucking wackos, they'll see patterns in anything.
Oh yeah,
it's like
when this guy is like notorious for like seeing patterns that are ridiculous.
Is he the kind of guy that like sees like photos and like draws like the triangles and goes, "See, Illuminati," like that kind of thing? Like,
yeah, except it's not necessarily Illuminati. I don't know that he's on that wagon, but he's
no. But I mean, he's one of those.
That's ridiculous.
Right?
Yeah, but he's in that vein of like seeing patterns and things that aren't there.
Oh yeah, and the number 44 for President Obama was hugely significant for him, and he would go through images and whatever. Yeah, he's one of those guys. Yeah,
I will say this much: you better have some fucking screen shares and stuff ready next week.
Oh man, you're saying you're gonna make me work for this, huh?
Hey, I had to do the Betsy DeVos stuff. Anyway,
I'll see what I can put together.
Enjoy your football game. I'm not a sports guy, so again, I will be probably playing video games. Yeah, thanks everyone for showing up, and we will see you next couple of weeks or something and stuff.
Bye-bye.
Bye.